and the station managers, may I know who is a media house owner here? Can you put up your hands? Okay. Who is the station manager or the CEO of the media house? Okay, so others, who are you? Others, who are you? Why am I asking this? Because it looks like some media house owners are taking this one for granted. They are sending us their accountants. They are sending us their administrative officers, possibly their caterers, catering officers. And that's where the problem begins, Mr. Minister. Because we call this for media, it's a serious matter, but people are sending us accountants. So I think we are going to, now we are going to escalate this one from an invitation to a summon. To summon as a regulatory summon now for media house owners, so that you are obligated really to come, because the matters we are going to discuss should be shared with people who can take responsibility, CEOs or owners of these licensed operators. So I hope my team, you are noting this. For Kampala, I think you can see, and this is where we have the biggest problem. But from my estimation, Mr. Minister, I can see that we are not achieving 100% of what we should achieve. Because in Kampala, we have quite a number of all TVs, all media houses. I would have expected, because I know most of the owners of these houses, but I can see very, very, very few. I can see very, very few, which means we must escalate this to now a regulatory summon, other than inviting you for a meeting. Since you are handling it casually, I think now we need to be a bit serious. And I think we, Mr. Minister, we shall have to encroach on your time. Another meeting. We shall continue with this meeting, but I suggest that maybe next week, this time, I'm going to issue a regulatory summon to media house owners, specifically indicating who should attend, and failure to attend will attract sanctions, regulatory sanctions, because those powers, we have them. Sometimes we don't want to use these powers because we think that we are dealing with reasonable people. But when we call you for a meeting like this one, as a media house owner, and you decide to send us your accountant, your administrative officer, who doesn't make any decision, then we are in problems. So I'm sorry to start with this kind of tone, but Mr. Minister, sir, I think it is necessary. So the chief guest, the Honorable Minister in charge of the ICT and National Guidance, representative of the Electoral Commission, representatives of the security services, media owners, editors, practitioners, members, fellow UCC staff, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of UCC, I warmly welcome you to this important engagement on media conduct, and most especially now as our country prepares for the forthcoming election. Allow me to express my sincere appreciation for your presence here, especially those media house owners who have come, and for the crucial role you continue to play in shaping public discourse, informing citizens, strengthening our democracy. Honorable Minister, the Commission has proposed to engage and continue engaging with the broadcaster and media practitioners in addressing prevailing concerns in the media space, as well as partner with them to mitigate any risks. The role of the media that's radio, television, print, and online, is very critical in any election. The media is the primary channel through which Ugandans receive information that guides their choices, shapes public opinion, and influences perceptions of legitimacy in the electoral process. However, with that power comes, obviously, responsibility. Colleagues, allow me to touch on the following issues that come with such responsibility. Balance and fairness. The public expects the media to cover all sides of the political spectrum fairly, to give space to diverse voices, and to report issues with the accuracy and context. Here, accuracy is of paramount importance because elections don't deal with estimates. Elections don't deal with rounding off. And you know that one makes a very big difference. So accuracy, when we are reporting elections, is very, very important. That's why you see us suggesting where we are going, that there's no way you can achieve this accuracy without dealing directly with an institution that has been constitutionally mandated to do this. Because that institution, the Electoral Commission, they have been given resources, they have staff, they have technical expertise, they have tools to ensure accuracy. Those tools may not be owned may not be owned by the media houses. So accuracy is very, very important, and we'll be addressing that one in more detail. Selective reporting, sensationalization, or bias not only undermines trust in the media, but can also distort democratic choice. Our expectation is that journalists and broadcasters remain impartial, referees, not players in the political context. However, at the Commission, Mr. Minister, we have observed that many media practitioners, journalists, presenters, newsreaders, editors, and regular panelists are seeking elective offices. Whereas this is not illegal, obviously, it is causing a conflict of interest as the public and their competitors are increasingly complaining that these people are campaigning and decampaigning them using these media platforms. In addition, they fail to differentiate their opinions or sentiments from facts and end up biasing the listeners and misinforming the public. So you know very well that these days of the media surge, when you get likes as on the online, you sort of become a king. When you get listenership on TV or radio, you become a king of some sort. So if you decide now to move to elective politics, I think it's just reasonable that really you leave that space and join politics, because this is a public platform, So we are observing that, and I think some of these things will be strictly imported into the new licensing cycle to be mentioned specifically, probably even into the law that we are amending. But before that, definitely, we are going to issue regulatory directives on some of these matters. Peace and security. Elections are a time of heightened emotions, as all of us know. Words and images have the power to calm or to inflame. We are seeing media practitioners broadcasting content that incites hatred, promotes violence, or deepens divisions. Responsible reporting means prioritizing national stability over short-term ratings or political expedience. The security of our nation cannot be compromised by careless headlines or broadcasting of unverified claims. Misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech occasion on social and digital media platforms. Mr. Minister, as UCC, we wish to remind the public, especially users of social and digital media platforms, that the spread of misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech during elections poses a grave threat to peace, security, and the integrity of our democratic process. UCC therefore issues the following warnings and guidance, and we will formally issue these. This being the last meeting of consultation, even after one of the media house owners who haven't come, we shall issue these formally in a regulatory directive. All social media users, bloggers, and digital publishers must desist from sharing unverified, false, or manipulative content. Broadcasters, online media platforms, and content creators are required to exercise maximum editorial responsibility and verify all information before publication and dissemination. 3, citizens are strongly encouraged to verify news from credible and official sources before sharing in order to protect themselves and their communities from manipulation. Spreading hate speech, incitement, or inflammatory messages online will attract regulatory and legal action, including suspension of accounts, blocking offending platforms, and prosecution in accordance with the Ugandan law. Please note that the Computer Misuse Act was amended in 2022 and introduced stringent penalties and offenses. For example, misuse of social media, sharing of malicious information, hate speech, cyberstalking, and cyberbullying and harassment, to mention but a few. These are punishable by fines of up to 15 million Uganda shillings or imprisonment of up to 10 years. Mr. Minister will be publishing this act in all media, in major languages, in the next 2 weeks, so that people know this. What you call abusing, kuvuma, to go on using this platform to abuse individuals. Abuse in the law is what they call cyber harassment. When you abuse somebody, it's not abuse, you are harassing them. That's cyber harassment. And of course, the penalties are really very, very, very high. Some of our people don't know this. Some people know this, but they just do it to break the law. 4, avoiding undue anxiety through unofficial tally centers and unofficial declaration of results. Uganda looks to the media not only for information, but also for reassurance. Unverified results, speculative commentary, or alarmist reporting can create fear, panic, or even unrest. We therefore expect all broadcasters to double-check facts, to work with accredited sources, such as the Electoral Commission and security agencies, and to exercise restraint, especially when reporting on sensitive matters, and such as results. Because results are not for us, are not for the common people. That's why the Constitution put up the Electoral Commission. They give them the tools, they give them the staff, and this is a constitutional matter. So there's no way a media house, you start declaring results as if you are reporting on how animals invaded the village. That's another issue. If animals invaded the village, that's an unregulated matter, content. But the results, it's like, Mr. Minister, I was equating it to UNEB results. You can imagine if somebody went where they are marking papers and got my paper 1 in mathematics, number 1, Nyombi Tembo, I get 20 out of 20, number 1. They come out and they publish. Nyombi Tembo gets 20 out of 20 in mathematics, paper 1, number 1. But number 2, I get 0 out of 20. And they are not there now to report. Number 3, I get 5. At the end of the day, I have 25. I have a 9. Now, UNEB comes and declare the results. Nyombi Tembo in mathematics has 9. But remember, they had declared that I had gotten 20 out of 20 in number 1. Now, the whole credibility of UNEP said, now you see, I think there's something that has happened. This man got 20 out of 20, number one. You hear people declaring, for example, presidential results as if it's LSU1 result. Presidential results, I think, Mr. Electoral Commission, I think you have more than 50,000 polling stations. But here's somebody, a radio declaring results of one polling station. That is not going to be acceptable, and we are asking our brothers, the Electoral Commission, if necessary, to issue specific regulation on this, and for us, we shall enforce. Actually, on our part, immediately, Mr. Minister, I'll be issuing a regulatory directive that every result you declare on a radio, TV, online, you must say, these results have been verified by Electoral Commission. Every result you declare, you must say that. And that will remind you that declaring results that haven't been verified by Electoral Commission is really illegal, is unacceptable, because it can cause us a lot of problems. You are doing something you are not supposed to do. If you want news, get it from people who are mandated to have this news. Election results is regulated content. It's not content like any other. It's not content like you have found people fighting on Kampala Road and you report. There's somebody fighting, whatever. That's unregulated. Election results is regulated content. Passes through a definite process with a lot of quality controls. There's no way you can be in Kampala, start calling your drunk news anchors in the village. Because I'm saying this, drunk, we are going to talk about this, Mr. Minister. When you look at our studio, sometimes you see the host is drunk, the guest is drunk. We might force you to have bricklayers in your studio. Yeah, because drunkards are not allowed to drive vehicles. Drunkards are not allowed to drive vehicles. They don't fly planes. I don't think you allow them to do anything in your space. How do you allow them to be in the studio doing broadcasting? If we have drunk driving, if drunk driving is dangerous, then drunk broadcasting should be mortally dangerous. So a lot of space here, we need to do a lot of work in this area. But I want to emphasize the point of this. Election declaration is regulated content. It has a constitutional, Electoral Commission is mandated to declare results. If you want to get results from Electoral Commission. And we want you to put that, I'll be issuing this one immediately, that when you declare results, you must say, these results are declared have been verified by Electoral Commission. So if they haven't been verified, then we will catch up with you. We are not going to allow unofficial and alternative tally centers. All election results shall and must be picked from the official Electoral Commission tally center. Unofficial declaration of results, establishing unofficial tally centers, prematurely declaring winners, or broadcasting unverified results on radio, television, or online platforms is illegal and will not be tolerated and will definitely attract regulatory sanctions. Sustainability of our radio and television industry. The sustainability of our radio and television industry is critical if we are to remain competitive in a fast-changing media environment. 3 issues stand out. Profitability. Traditional advertising revenues are under pressure due to digital platforms. Because of this, employees of media companies are not well remunerated and sometimes left to fend for themselves. This has made them mercenaries that are used to attack different individuals, politicians, and government. We now have journalists for hire. Journalists for hire. Gendo mumvumire. Vumira gundi. Professionalism. The credibility of broadcasting depends on high ethical standards. Accuracy, balanced reporting, and respect for cultural values are not optional. The Commission is concerned at the appalling unprofessionalism occasioned by media practitioners, use of abusive language, false reporting, misinformation, and disinformation, and paid for journalists for hire. Journalists for hire. So the point to pick here is that as regulators now, we are picking a lot of interest in sustainability of a licensed operator. How sustainable is your business? Because that's the first compromise of the regulatory internal controls. If your business is not sustainable, it means you are not paying your people. We don't mind about how much you pay them, but you must be paying them. You must be obliging to all labor requirements. You don't ask your people to fend for themselves. I was sharing, Mr. Minister, with some colleagues and to on a TV station, that at one time we had a commander of the barracks here in Kampala. That barracks was called Malire. It's now Lubiri. It was called the Malire Barracks. And the commander there was Brigadier Basilio Lalokero. May his soul rest in eternal peace. At one time, when there was a problem around the Ruvaga Road there, they gathered us, the way they used to do it. All of us were picked from our small musicals. We are brought around where Pride Theatre was. We sat there, and Basilio Lalokero came, greeted us and said, okay, we are going to release you, but you people, you must know. But they, I think, killed the 2 soldiers at night. They had killed 2 soldiers who were stealing from people, and people organized and hacked them and killed them. So we thought the commander was going to tell us that, oh, this is bad, we are going to control our soldiers. So the man told us, you people, you have to be very careful. We've liberated you, but you are taking us for granted. These are your sons. If you have 2 shots, give him 1. That's what, this is on record. And I was there, I was not told. A brigadier, commander of the 1st Division, I think was number 2 in the military there, said, if you have 3 shots, give this soldier 1 shot. So they were blaming the community who had organized themselves to, of course, police call it what? When people organize and solve a problem, you call it mob. So these people had done mob action. Of course, it's bad, but we are supposed to be discouraging mob action, but again also ensure that this. He told us that if you have 2 shots, give a soldier 1 shot. If you have 2 watches, give him 1 watch. So all of us, you put it. So even some of you radio owners, that's what you have told your media practitioners in your studio. You go and fend for yourself. Me, I don't have money. You've seen I have no business. Where do you expect me to get money? So these young people will go and invade politicians, invade whoever, business people, to be hired to fight wars. And when you listen to some of our radio programs, you really hear that. People are fighting wars of other people. The radio is not supposed to do that, but because they can't fend for themselves. So we are taking special interest in this. How sustainable is the business? If the business is not sustainable, you better do something about it, other than compromising the internal controls. If you can't control your staff, see, however much you regulate technology, when you don't regulate the human hand, you're wasting time. All of us know that technology can be as good as the human hand that is making it work. So when you don't regulate the people, technology will not work. So we've been regulating spectrum, bypass filters, regulating type approval, technical regulation. But now we are picking special interest in regulating the soft part of the radio station, financial sustainability of a station, because it all compromises all the internal controls if it's not well catered for. Regional and global platforms are expanding into our space. Our edge lies in local relevance, producing content that reflects Ugandan voices, values, and aspirations. Strategic investment in technology, innovation, and creative talent will allow our broadcasters to compete, not just locally, but regionally. That's just an observation. However, broadcasters are not investing in technology. Your employees don't have contracts, and most are freelancers. There's a high turnover of creative talent, and most are easily corrupted and used as mercenaries to attack different personalities. The Commission is considering reducing the number of broadcast media houses in Uganda in order to have a professional and sustainable sector. We encourage you to consider mergers or acquisitions for those that are similar for survival or sustainability. Because regulation is about signaling, and I'm giving a signal that we, at an appropriate moment, we shall take interventions that will lead for these mergers. We are not going to force you to merge, but we have a lot of tools we can introduce. So my signal I'm giving you as a regulator, because we want a predictable regulatory environment, so that you don't lose the equity. When we give these signals, if you feel you are not sustainable, make sure you merge so that you don't lose your equity. You get me? Yes. When we give signals, merge before losing your equity. And don't side into caution you. That's the direction we are going. Radios must be sustainable. We know most are not. So if your radio station is not sustainable, make sure that when we send the signal, make sure you merge very quickly before your equity is depleted to zero. Because it can be depleted to zero. You can reach a level where you can't sell anything. And don't say we didn't caution you. That's the direction we are going. Look at your financials. We'll be strict on asking for your financials. Very, very strict. Look for your financials. This time is good, sir, Mr. Minister, because here you can't fake. When you fake that you are making money, when you're not making it, the revenue authority will be on you. Eh? The only way would be to fake that you are not making money. Then we shall ask you, how are you going to sustain the revenue? You must show us that maybe you have overdraft, maybe you have some reserves where you're going to get money to pay these people, and we shall ask for evidence. We shall not allow a radio that is having volunteers in studios. No. People must be workers, must be compensated, must have human resource manuals should be in place, because that is an area which we can't compromise on. It compromises all other areas in the internal control process. As I conclude, the Commission reiterates its commitment to safeguarding the communication ecosystem, ensuring responsible use of social and digital media, and protecting the rights of all Ugandans to access accurate, reliable, and safe information. The Commission will continue to promote freedom of the press and access to information, but this freedom must be exercised responsibly, in line with the professional ethics and the laws of Uganda. Colleagues, balanced, accurate, and professional coverage of election is not just a journalistic duty, it is a patriotic responsibility. By upholding these standards, you help preserve peace, protect democracy, and ensure that every Ugandan can make informed choices in an environment free of fear and intimidation. Together, let us ensure that the media remains a pillar of trust, unity, and national stability during this electoral process. I say all this for God and my country, and I thank you for listening. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Asante sana. Asante tena. If you haven't had a cup of tea, we can make it a working tea. We have just enough tea at the back. We need some energy in the room. Thank you, Edie, for the thought-provoking remarks. Our guest of honor, moving on. In this conversation, we have a remarkable individual whose name is almost synonymous to media ethics and integrity in Uganda. He holds a vital responsibility to ensure that journalistic professionalism not only survives but thrives. The Media Council has become our guiding star on the path to trustworthy election coverage. So let's give a warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Mr. Paulo Okochu, the chairperson of the Media Council. I've also been reminded that we are live on television. Let us smile.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Honorable Minister, Madam PS, my distinguished colleagues sitting up on the podium, the wonderful broadcasters present. As you know, I was there before I came here. My constituency was that one. And now I'm here representing you and acting for government. Let me start, first of all, by thanking the Honorable Minister and the Ministry of ICT and the PS for appointing the new Media Council of Uganda. Ladies and gentlemen, there is now a fully constituted council ready to carry out its duties, and there will be no excuse for unethical conduct or professional misconduct as we go forward. I also want to refer to the Electoral Commission and tell you that as we come to those elections, we have been desked to accredit all people who are going to be covering these elections. I hope it will go smoothly for the safety of all of us in this sector. But let me do my remarks as I prepared them. When I was preparing the speech for this, I titled it, Navigating Truth, Trust, and Law in the 2026 election. This was advised by the history that we have had in elections. Today, as we gather in another very pivotal moment in our nation's democratic journey, the role that you, the broadcasters, play in this year will be more vital, more scrutinized, and more consequential than ever before. I hope you're all aware of that. Because you are not just channels of information, you are custodians of public trust, guardians of truth, and anchors of stability in times like this. But going by my titling, let us first discuss how we are going to do that before we get clear on the why. The work that we do as the Media Council and as government as a whole is anchored in the Constitution of Uganda, particularly elections under Article 61, where it gives the Electoral Commission the mandate to organize, conduct, and supervise elections and referenda. The Electoral Commission Act at Section 12 empowers the Commission to take all measures necessary for the proper conduct of elections and referenda. The same Act at Section 15 authorizes the Commission to issue instructions and guidelines to ensure the free and fair conduct of elections. The Parliamentary Elections Act and the Presidential Elections Act particularly refer to you, the broadcasters and media proprietors, where it directly says you are accountable if you knowingly use your platforms to do prohibited acts such as broadcasting false or defamatory statements. Therefore, my colleagues here and members of the audience, when we speak of guidelines for media coverage, we are not debating courtesy or etiquette. We are operationalizing the law. And the guidelines that are going to come out are the necessary instruments to ensure a level playing field, to safeguard public order, and to protect the credibility of Uganda's electoral process. Permit me to say something about regulation. In line with the mandate I've just talked about, the Ministry of ICT, indeed, and all the agencies under it, particularly the Media Council and the Communications Commission, we are conscious, because of history, shifting our philosophy of regulation. For long, regulation has been understood as policing. But I think a policed media, in my view, a policed media is an intimidated media. What we need is a facilitated media, empowered, professional, and ethical. As you know, our role as the Media Council is about the messenger, you, accrediting journalists, upholding standards, resolving complaints, and defending the profession's honor. The UCC, on the other hand, is about the medium and the content, ensuring broadcasters meet licensing, technical, and content obligations. Together, we are two sides of the same coin, striving to build an environment where media can operate freely, but also, very importantly, responsibly. This shift to facilitation, which is important in the current new age media, does not lessen your responsibilities. On the contrary, in my view, it sharpens them. You know, broadcasters shape public opinion, like you've heard my previous speaker say. You can elevate hope, you can ignite division. The constitutional weight you carry is very heavy. And the battlefield of truth today that we are witnessing has never been more contested. In this battlefield now we have pervasive disinformation, false claims deliberately seeded. For example, I read somewhere, somebody that did a study, some people are writing that the low turnout in primaries is evidence of a rigged system, or that the diaspora registration is a covert scheme to manipulate the register. These narratives aim to discredit the election long before ballots are cast. There's identity-based poison, sectarian rhetoric. It's on the rise, actually, if you notice in the social media. From online ethnic slurs to leaders, some of our leaders openly pledging loyalty only to candidates of their faith or tribe. These statements are moving from fringe talk into mainstream political discourse, and you are the platform which is being used. There's coordinated delegitimization. Campaigns online seek to discredit not only the EC and security organs, as you've always had, but even you, the broadcasters. They say you are corrupt and compromised. When diaspora-based influencers, you know them, dismiss you as propaganda tools, they are attacking public trust in you. The very institutions that hold democracy together. You, as broadcasters, have to hold firm and stand up. You should not be carried into this very dangerous culture that is forming itself. You should be the vanguard to protect our processes. I have seen a single viral video from an influencer spreading lies so fast. These lies are not random falsehoods. They are deliberate strikes at the credibility of our democratic process, and we must be aware of it, and we must watch out for it. And of course, most of these things happen in this very new battlefield called the digital space. It's on Twitter, it's on TikTok, it's on Facebook, it's on WhatsApp. It's no longer confined to print and broadcast. But I know many of you are now across the board. You're in print, you're in broadcast, you're in digital spaces, you're on Facebook, you're on Twitter, you're on everything. There are citizen journalists, there are influencers and podcasters who now rival you, traditional media. Their right to speak is protected, I agree, but so too is the public's right to truthful information and the state's duty to preserve order. Let me be very equivocal about this. The law applies to everyone. The penal code applies equally for incitement and defamation. The Computer Misuse Act applies equally for hate speech, cyber harassment, and false publication to everybody, whether you're a legacy broadcaster in Kampala or a blogger in Boston. That law will catch up with you where it can. But your advantage as broadcasters is your credibility, which I really urge you to protect. In an ocean of all this noise, you must be the lighthouse of verified facts. Do not be an echo chamber for digital falsehoods. It's now changed. Before, we used to see stories start in legacy media and go to the digital space. But now stories start from the digital space and come to legacy media, which is a very dangerous thing. Very, very dangerous. Fact check before you air. Verify before you broadcast. To provide order and fairness in this volatile environment of elections, the Ministry of ICT, National Guidance, the Electoral Commission, ourselves, the Media Council, and the UCC, we are finalizing comprehensive guidelines for media coverage of elections. These guidelines are going to operationalize the law But as I said before, the guidelines are very importantly meant to facilitate a smooth process of media coverage during the election. They are not meant to hinder. They are not meant to police you. They are meant to help you cover the elections well without having the unnecessary altercations that you have been having before, because we have studied them and we know them. I remember in the last election, the very people who did not want to be seen to be part of the sector ended up being harassed. We want you to be recognized. We want to see who you are. We want you to be accredited well so that when you go to cover an election event, when you go to cover the tallying events, the final elections, you are known. You are allowed access. You can move freely because of your profession, because of what you do. We facilitate you to do that. But to facilitate you, we need to know who you are and where you are. And we urge you, when the time comes, to make sure you get yourself the right credentials to be able to cover this election very well, without any hindrance at all in your profession. Ladies and gentlemen, this election will be a referendum, not just on candidates, but on the credibility of our entire information ecosystem. The choices you make after today and later on, guided by the guidance that we're going to give you, what you air, what you amplify, what you filter, will directly impact Uganda's peace, stability, and democracy. The Council, the Commission, our parent ministry, the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, we stand here ready to support you. Not as policemen, please, not as policemen, but as partners and facilitators. But the responsibility lies with you. Be the guardians of democracy. Be the filters of truth, not the megaphones of falsehood. Be the trusted voice when everything else is noise. For in doing so, you will not only fulfill the law, but you'll also secure your irreplaceable role in the destiny of Uganda. For those who know me, they know me as a master of brevity. I do not tend to talk a lot, like one of our past presidents. So, thank you for listening to me. Mungu abariki wote. Asante sana.
Thank you very much, Mr. Okochi. Asante sana. Asante tena. Thank you. Our guest of honor, to switch a gear a bit, to add to this conversation, is a voice from the broadcasters. And the person to speak to us is known to many of us. He's an entrepreneur. He's a broadcaster himself, a media Mongol. But we know him as the chairman, board of trustees for the National Association of Broadcasters. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ken Kalisa, you would make your remarks.
Honorable Minister of ICT and National Guidance, Dr. Squared, Chris Bariomunsi, the Permanent Secretary and Minister of ICT and National Guidance, Dr. Yet Squared, Amina Zawede, our ED, UCC, Honorable Nyombi Tembo, our brother Paul Ekuchu, congratulations. Media Council, my senior brother, Major General Felix Kulaije, my brother Rusoke, my sister Kareche, our chairman Nab, our chairman Ruba, fellow broadcasters, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable Minister, it's good to have this kind of conversation with these broadcasters. And I hear Honorable Nyombi Tembo's paying. And this is the reason why you don't have the media owners here. Is the way we issue licenses and the structure of ownership of media in Uganda. Who owns media in Uganda? Number one, the biggest number are Honorable Chris's colleagues. Yes? Those are the people owning media houses in Uganda. Out of 310, or let's say 300 radio stations, I can tell you, we can go and do proper census. 150 are owned by Honorable Chris's colleagues in that parliament and in cabinet. How many are here? Baliwa. You ask Ruba, who are your competitors regionally? Politicians, MPs. So that is category number one. Category number two, Honorable Minister, are churches, Pentecostals, and a few Muslim radio stations, faith-based. They carry another 30%. Category number three, cultural institutions. Then number four, a few of us, me, my brother Innocent, Julius, business people, and media people running media. But at the end of the day, these people have a lot of impunity, Honorable Minister. UEDCL can't even go to collect, to switch them off if they don't pay power. They have soldiers that prohibit. They cannot even allow UCC come near their broadcasting stations. That's the impunity we have. They are the people abusing each other, campaigning in the villages. That's the media we have. So as we talk about media today, that is the architecture of media. And I'm happy today the ED has said he's going to sort out media in Uganda. I hope the political class will support you. They will not be calling, hey, this station now, this one's fought in the bush, this one did this, this one did. Please, let's apply the laws that we've created to sort out media today. And I'm saying this for God and my country. Yes, I know we are going to have this discussion, but I wanted to start with that the architecture of media in Uganda is like that because the political class invaded this industry. Because that is it. It is what it is. So they will announce themselves. The ED has said that, oh, don't announce this, don't do this. I can tell you for free, they will be running their own telecenters on their own radio stations. That one I can tell you for free. They will do it. So we want to support UCC as NAB to implement the law as is to everyone. And we'll be happy to comply. Point number two, I want to appeal to my colleagues. We only have one Uganda. There's no plan B. One Uganda. Let's protect it. You hold a lot of power. This power, we need to exercise it with a lot of responsibility. Let's try as much as possible to differentiate ourselves between us, the regulated media, and the unregulated media that has invaded your business. Honorable Minister, this is the only time you need credible media to exist, because if we don't, the invaders are there. Everyone is a broadcaster now. We need to support these broadcasters. These broadcasters have gatekeeping mechanism. They have professional editors. They can gatekeep and protect this country. The other broadcasters who are on these social platforms, Twitter, TikTok, and what, some of them are former employees. They have some regulation, but because of the clamoring for likes and follows and what, sometimes they lose those trainings they got from media houses and school. So it is total gutter out there. That's why we need to support the credible media to exist so that they can tell and guide the public what is right, what is it that is the truth, and what they need to follow. I will say two things and I sit down. Electoral Commission. I've seen my brother Julius here. You are doing a commendable job. But let me say this time, Electoral Commission, you have been so silent. I don't know whether they have done a voter education or not. You've said that people are going to use biometrics. How to do it, people don't know. People are confused. Your messages are not getting out there. The only time we cover you is when you call us for a press conference. Please communicate. If they gave you money to buy gadgets, these biometric gadgets to print these papers, the ballots, and to transport them, they forgot to give you a budget for media to communicate. You need to communicate aggressively to Ugandans so that they know how to vote. You need to have a budget. And Honorable Minister talked to the Chairman of the Electoral Commission. Maybe Julius fears to communicate to him. Talk to him that the Ugandans deserve to be educated, deserve to be communicated to. If they have done it, it has not been effective. For one, I haven't heard anything. I don't know which media I listen to or watch, but I haven't heard anything. Lastly, Honorable Minister, we want to implore you to talk to your colleagues, to talk to the media. These other people in these other camps, the opposition camps, you call them, before you finish the call, they are there. They are there to be on air, to defend their cause. The ministers and the NRM people are very hard to come by. So sometimes our colleagues, it becomes extremely very difficult to balance the equation. You have 3-4 people from the opposition, you hardly get one from NRM. There are very few. It is you, Honorable Chris Bariomonsi, it is Opono Opondo, a few others. 310 radio stations, maybe 60 TV stations. How are you going to balance? How are you going to split yourself across these platforms? Talk to your colleagues to be available, to defend and talk for NRM or for the government. It's very, very important. Otherwise, Honorable Nyombi Temba and UCC will come and tell us, you guys, you are not balancing the equation. They don't know what we go through. And you can't blame him because for him, he's monitoring, he's watching. So, Honorable Minister, please, I beg you, talk to your colleagues. I know they are very busy in their constituencies. Let them save some time to talk to these media houses. I want to thank you and I want to congratulate UCC for organizing this. This is a very, very important symposium. Honorable Nyombi Tembo, let's allow us next week organize our colleagues and we come and have one-on-one, a closer, maybe about 40 or 50 media owners, and we discuss some issues. There are some issues that you talked about that I would want us to dig more, because announcing results, it's a kind of a balance we need to make. Otherwise, if we keep Ugandans in the dark again, it might be a problem. So it's something we need to come and have that discussion and argue on how to deal with it. Thank you very much, and may God bless you.
Thank you very much, Dr. King. Asante sana. Asante tena. We'll be having a plenary, and all the conversations going on here will be tickling many of you. But we also know probably not everybody may get the opportunity to get on the mic. And of course, because it's political season, the mic has to be well regulated. Others people may think this is the time to tell a story of their life. We have a QR code over there. If something is tickling you, it is nice for you to make a submission. It could be a comment, an observation, a question on Slido. And we'll be able to air it out quickly when the plenary starts. Or you can actually use the meeting code. If you go on Slido and you Google it, you use the meeting code, it will give you the platform to submit that. Our guest of honor, the next voice in this conversation is from the men and women who walk the fine line between law and order. The Uganda Police Force plays a crucial role in protecting the democratic process and ensuring our safety during electoral coverage. Our next speaker is a law enforcer who believes in the power of dialogue over force, but where force is warranted, trust me, he will give it to you. Ladies and gentlemen, join me to welcome SCP Katumwa Rusoke to make his remarks.
Thank you, Comrade Bossa. The Honorable Minister in our midst, the Permanent Secretary, all dignitaries, the broadcasting houses, media fraternity. Allow me right on the protocol earlier raised. I have come to speak and add or make a statement on this very pertinent issue, and particularly with reference to elections. You have been told elections are a very, 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 very tough issue. They are a contest. They are not a subject anybody takes lightly. Not those who directly participate in them, not those who support the participants. Elections have umpires. The ultimate judges in those elections are the masses. Why you see the tough contest is that the referees are masses and they can make very decisive decisions. They can be manipulated. They can be incited. Some of those judges are as young as 18 years. That's why, for us as security agencies, and in this particular situation, in the Uganda Police Force, when we have an election, we treat it as a matter of national security. Everybody may look at an election from a different angle. There is one who probably wants to win an election and get a fat assignment, a lucrative assignment, start earning. But there are those who enter elections like us to particularly make sure that national security is not compromised. Our relationship. Broadcasters, media, and all actors within the media space, we treat our relationship as symbiotic. we all depend on each other. You need us, we need you. And good enough, our roles are defined by law. You know what you're supposed to do. What we are also supposed to do is defined by law. But at some times we interact at a point when our relations are at their lowest. That one we must admit. But otherwise, we value you. One of the biggest challenges we have as security agencies is that in all that we are discussing, we are like, I guess all of you here have ever taken a loan. Before you take a loan, there are two kinds of persons you, actually, when you are going to take a loan, the bank will advance that beautiful looking lady who will spice you up, and before you realize, you have appended the signature. Then during recovery, there's that bailiff with a hoarse voice who comes to you and shows you that there is no middle line. You either pay or you are lifted to the next court. Now, police and other agencies, I will not speak for other agencies for now. I have my superior is around. He will echo it. But police, we are the lead agency. Now we are the bailiff. When things are not going well, when one party is not fulfilling its side of the divide, that's when you start seeing police. That's why we have never taken it cool. We have never got flowers on matters of our interactions, on most occasions. But otherwise, we have a role to play, and the biggest role is in enforcement. We make mistakes. That one I have to admit. At times, we also make mistakes, just like you. I guess you have had situations where some of your staff are even taken to court for misconduct. It means that within your teams, there are those who may not deliver to the expectations and to the ethical code of your institutions. We also at times have those low moments where you find one or two police officers or a security officer transgresses, walks away from the ethical path and acts in a manner that brings our institution into disrepute. But our call that we touch buttons with you should anything arise. Sometimes we also have to confess that the flow of security information is highly procedural. I've interacted with a number of you. I know sometimes you're not very comfortable with my speed. Yes, because the flow of security information is procedural and it takes consideration of a number of considerations before it is given out. It has to be verified. So all that we are cognizant. Lastly is the hot potato issue, the issue you usually call police brutality in operations. Just as much as I was hinting about it, but let me bring it out in a proper context. Initially, I said we make mistakes, but we also have a mandate. When there is a likelihood or a breakdown of public order, we have no choice. We must come in, we must put on the gloves. Public order management is not a simple task. It is not a debate like this one where you come, you sit, and you talk. Everybody is listening, and everybody will have his own opportunity. It is one of the few spaces in human interaction where there is little regulation. Nobody is listening to the other. Everybody is charged. That's why sometimes we don't tell you, in the management of public disorder, all parties become casualties. We also nurse policemen with broken. You try to follow up, you realize we have very many officers who get injuries, fractures. The good thing, the person is standing before you. I have this forehead of mine, you see, was stitched. I was hit by, I think I was the operations officer of Entebbe. And I tried what you always encourage us to do. I tried to speak to rioters. They shattered my head. I remember being put in some small car to take me for stitches. By then I used to be under MPPU, Mobile Police Patrol Unit. That is 2009. When I was in Old Kampala, they almost shattered my, when we were handling one of the communist politicians, around. So there is a breakdown. At times, the victims are also you. There is collateral damage. Now, and during that process, anybody can make a mistake. You may stand in the wrong side. I may throw a projectile to the wrong direction. The rioter may target the wrong person. What am I talking about? Let everybody mind about safety, especially you. You must live to tell the next story. It's not a do or die. You don't need to die in the name of a single story, because there are more to cover if you survive that day. Officers, oh, sorry, I'm used to referring to officers. One thing, we shall continue being in touch. Sir, your message has reached. I know we may have taken some time to reach you, but we got your message and we embraced it. And I think you must have seen an improvement in the way of doing things. And we pledge it better. Where we make mistakes, please bear with us. But on the whole, we wish, just like the way you do, that one, there is a vibrant media, there is a tranquility, but behind everything, there should be very serious and intentional consideration for national security. I salute you all.
Asante sana. Asante tena. Thank you very much, Afande Rusoki. We also welcome the Minister for the Presidency. And this is a very important conversation. Honorable Minister, I was once in a forum like this where the executive director was addressing broadcasters, and he assured them that some actions by broadcasters sometimes transcend from regulation into national security. Because you see, as regulators of communication, primarily we are monitoring, we are inspecting, we are supervising, we are licensing, we are regulating content standards at a bare minimum. But there are actions that we may take that now cross over from regulation into national security concerns. Our guest of honor, our next conversationist, is a lion in uniform, a poet of power, a strategist of narrative. He understands better than most the art of shaping perception in the theater of both politics and peace. And I know he once said that a government that does not communicate is simply waiting for its downfall, which kind of mimics a conversation the National Association of Broadcasters we're having here. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to invite Major General Felix Kulaije, the UPDF spokesperson.
Thank you, Comrade Bossa. When you get introduced like that, you are in trouble. Because you must live to you must be up to the description. May God help me. Honorable ministers, another one has come in. PS, Minister of Information and ICT. Fellow panelists, all of you in your individual respective capacities, allow me to say that I always fear going into the details of protocol, lest I miss out somebody and the person is offended. So I'm safer going that way. Honorable ministers, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know whether the description suits correctly, but mine, I'm going to talk about the nexus between security and democracy. You see, when Comrade Rusoka was here, he was talking about law and order. And I'm reminded, when I saw Navayomons coming in from the other side, I'm reminded that when we talked about a fundamental change, there was something as simple as height. Before 86, Mr. Nyombitemba and I would not be in uniform. You had to be Dr. Bayomus's height to be in uniform. The other category that was not allowed were women. So 86 brought women in combat. Now, today we are talking about nexus of security and democracy because things have changed, that we have to interact with the eyes and the ears of the public. In fact, somebody said that the next war is on the media platform. You either fight it well or you prevent the war. And what we are doing here is prevention of the war. So why am I talking about nexus of security and democracy? An election is a very important exercise. Very, very important. So important that in some countries, if you don't vote, you're even fined. Like Australia, you don't go to vote, you pay a fine. It's a time when people must make a decision as to who they want to lead them for the following period that they have decided, whether it is 4 years or 5 years. Now, here, who organizes elections? It's the Electoral Commission. But who is in charge of the country? It's the government. Who is in charge of government? The state. Now, the state must exist to exercise these responsibilities. In other words, the existence of the state is not a question of debate. In fact, philosophers like Plato say, nature is so brutal that man must be under an authority. That it's good to be under an authority. Minus that, it's nothing but chaos. So, for you to vote, you must be secure. The organizer must be secure. The political practitioners must be secure. And then the voter must be secure. Now, my comrade Rusoke is a maintainer of law and order. Not so? So meaning he maintains what is already there. So the creator of law and order are the men and women in military uniform. So the military creates the order, the police maintains it. So we are the mothers of order, they are the midwives. That's why we must move together. A mother does not surrender the baby, does she? So when they are doing the job of looking after our baby, we are nearby in case they need us. Am I making any sense? Honourable Ministers, I want to argue that the state owes it to you and I to survive. They have a duty. The state has a duty to survive. And the duty is to who? You and I. So, in its survival, there must be actors in maintaining that security for the state to survive. The actors are not the men and women in uniform alone. In fact, security, law and order, and then democratic governance are a responsibility of every citizen. Then when it comes to security, the frontliners are police and the military and intelligence agencies. So there must be coordination, collaboration, and cooperation between the security agencies and the population. The owners of this process we are talking about are you, the citizens. But the shapers of the narrative that will determine how we vote are you, ladies and gentlemen, in the media world. So you will create the atmosphere for a peaceful election or the atmosphere for chaos. Either directly or indirectly through the people you host on the platforms or in the media houses, those of you who hold talk shows. So it's a cardinal responsibility to ensure that the narrative coming from your media house builds for the future, as the motto for Makerere is. If the narrative is destructive, I don't know, the regulators will tell me. I think the owner has a responsibility to stop the person who is being destructive in his submission. Midway, he's talking, because you have a duty to society. Elections are very important because you're exercising your rights to determine who leads you and how you want to be led. But rights must go with responsibilities. Ladies and gentlemen, people are always talking about the Bill of Rights. Rarely have I heard anybody talk about Article 17 of the Constitution, the duties of a citizen. You and I have a duty to see Uganda of tomorrow, to work for it. And working for Uganda of tomorrow means you must ensure that the country is stable. You must ensure that we actually defend our environment. The former speakers talked about how powerful the media is. And I want to share with you my experience with the next one though. One time I was at a game in the car, and somebody was passing and he spat. So I got out of the car and I said, "You, why are you deadening our city?" Guess the response I got. Don't you know I'm a journalist? Oh, so being a journalist gives you the right to misbehave. I was exercising my responsibility of cautioning a fellow citizen from doing the wrong thing, and he intimidated me instead. That's how democratic Uganda is. That a citizen was intimidating a senior officer after misbehaving. Now, the riots you referred to, Comrade Rusoka was also a victim. The same riots. Here at Kabaka and Jagara, I got out of my car to talk to rioters, just like you did, in my uniform, and the rioter had the audacity to aim for my head with a club. By the grace of God, I put there my hand, and I had to rush to the X-ray to ensure my bone is still safe. And life continued after that. The days of General Wazirio that Honorable Nyombi referred to, you forgot that he also he made us pay for the 3 lives that were lost. Because he said, wewe na wewe simama juu, and the rest you know what happened. Yes, they shot 3 civilians to pay for the soldiers who were killed. In this very country, that happened. But in this same country, a Lieutenant Colonel was beaten while in uniform in broad daylight, and life continued. That is democracy we want to continue and sustain. The media is so important that we can't imagine the world without a media. You imagine a world where there is no radio, there is no TV, there are no newspapers or magazines to read. It would be darkness. Government policies would never be known. Products from the business people would never be understood or known that they exist. So the media is very critical, very important. But then that importance is promoted by responsible exercise of your freedom to communicate and the right to access information, which the state must ensure you have. So for anybody to do to enjoy his or her rights, there must be stability, there must be order, there must be security. And that is created by all of us. I will not talk for long. I want to give take home. Take home number 1. The media is not only crucial, but also critical. Like I said, it is going to shape the narrative of how the political actors are behaving during the campaigns. it's also going to shape the narrative that will determine how the citizens will determine who, or will decide who leads us for the next 5 years. And I want to argue this. One of the ministers, the citizen is only free, or the voter is only free during the casting of the vote. The moment the ballot paper disappears into the ballot box, your freedom has ended. You are now either a slave or a liberated individual of the person you have elected for the next 5 years. You elect a buffoon, there you are for the next 5 years. You elect a fighter, expect boxing in the next 5 years. You elect a legislator, expect good policies and legislations to come from parliament. So the choice is yours on that moment. That's how important voting is. 2, you don't go to vote, you have no right to demand accountability from government. I think we do the work for you, Electoral Commission, civic education. You don't go to vote, you lose the right to demand services. Because you didn't participate in determining who leads you and who will be able to provide for you these services. I normally say I'm not going to speak very nice words because I'm not looking for a bride. These are very important issues. The media sets the agenda, so we must see the agenda of peace and responsible citizenry being championed all the time. You set the agenda, so the agenda for peace, security, and responsible citizenry must be always seen to be churning out of the media houses. 3, security and peace are a responsibility of everyone, and security agencies are simply the frontliners. Because foundation security starts with the citizen. So I pray that the media owners and the practitioners keep on drumming this message. And by the way, when the state collapses, there is no even media to talk about. And if I'm lying to you, you just cross over across Lake Wamara and Lake Edward and Lake Albert, the other side, and find if there is any media house operating other than Radio Okapi, UN Radio, before you take it to Somalia. 4, elections are a very important constitutional exercise. We must participate in the process with the maximum respect and responsibility to each other and our mother country. Can I repeat this one? Elections are a very important constitutional exercise. We must participate in the process with the maximum respect and responsibility to each other and to mother country. Uganda will be 5. Uganda will be here before, during, and after elections. The choice of the Uganda I want to see after elections is yours. That's when I'm minister, I want to go to the Word of God. And this is a package for all of us. Exodus chapter 18, verse 21. And I read, but select from all the people some capable, honest men. Some capable, honest men who fear God and hate bribes. Are we there? Who fear God and hate what? Appoint them as leaders over groups of 1,150 and 10. The message here is elect people who fear God. People who have the conviction that this country must move to the next level. May God bless Uganda. May God bless you.
Asante sana. Asante tena. Ladies and gentlemen, it's about responsible election media coverage. Ogogwe Mulamwa. We are live on television. And I think we all know, our guest of honor, that upholding free and fair elections is not an easy feat. We've been around the country, and Honorable Kabianga said, it is free and fair, not free and excellent. So we studied and learned the difference between that. It requires usually precision, constitutional vigilance, and unshakable neutrality to run an election like the one we have started. Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, speaks for the institution entrusted in this sacred duty. Put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, as we invite Mr. Julius Muchunguzi to pass over a critical message from the Electoral Commission.
Thank you very much, Comrade Posa. The Honorable Minister of ICT and National Guidance, the Permanent Secretary, the Ministry, the Executive Director of UCC, Honorable Nyombi Tembo, my colleagues, friends from the media. The chairperson of the Electoral Commission would have wanted to be here himself. But at the moment, the Commission is involved in activities of listening and hearing and determining petitions that are arising out of the exercises we have so far completed and those that are ongoing. And those exercises of the tribunal require the full complement of the Commission to sit, to be able to reach a decision by consensus. And so, because of that, the Commission sits in its full complement, and that is what is happening, and that's why I have been requested to say a few words on this during this important engagement. But the Commission has asked me, the chairperson has asked me to thank UCC and the Ministry for organizing these regional stakeholder engagement programs, because we've been hearing and listening to messages coming from the regions, complementary and adding very serious value to building a democratic, a responsible and responsive media practice during these general elections. And so that is a message of appreciation from the Commission that I've been asked to deliver here. The second point that the Commission has asked me to deliver is to say what the chairperson has been saying and the Commission has been emphasizing, that a free, fair, credible, transparent election is a responsibility not just of the Electoral Commission, but of all the stakeholders that have a role to play in the process. And there can not be any better stakeholder engagement in respect of how the elections should be covered by media than this particular one. So it is one of those that collectively fits in that framework. I should recognize the minister responsible for the presidency. I was looking here, but Madam, I'm glad to see you. And thank you too for being here. The Electoral Commission is mandated by the Constitution to organize and conduct regular, free, and fair elections. But in doing that, it does it in collaboration with critical stakeholders, majority of whom are in this room. And it is the conduct of all the critical stakeholders that will determine the manner in which this general election will be conducted. And one of those critical stakeholders is the broadcast media, or the media in general. The Commission and Ugandans, as General Kraija has mentioned, cannot envisage having credible, free, fair, and transparent elections without the media playing their rightful roles, but playing those roles responsibly in accordance with the professional standards that they have been subjected through their training, but also in recognition of the broader purpose of elections. That elections are not just an end in themselves, but that elections are a means to an end. And that collectively as Ugandans, we need to define, and it has been defined, what that end is. An end of a united, peaceful, and progressing Uganda. And that should not be lost on any stakeholder in the electoral process, including the media. The media, and broadcast for that matter, are very powerful institutions, and that has been stated. But they say that with the power comes responsibility. The more powerful you are, the more responsible you must be, especially to make sure that your power is not used to hurt the weak or to hurt those who don't have that power. So, to whose end are elections? Elections are for the citizens of Uganda, because it is what Article 1 of the Constitution speaks about, the sovereignty of the people, and subsection clause 4, that the people, paraphrasing, shall choose who will lead them through regular, free, and fair elections. That is the basis of elections. But the people are at the center. The media and politics and politicians often say we act in the interest of the people. The people have called me. I am answering the call of the people. And the media also tell you that we are here representing the people. But sometimes you can watch a broadcast and you wonder really whether the broadcast is about the people or about some other interests. And so when we speak about putting in place guidelines to guide the conduct of coverage of elections, it is to ensure that we do not lose sight of the purpose of elections and why elections exist and why everybody needs to play their roles in accordance with the laws of the land, in accordance with the regulations and guidelines provided, and in accordance with that which focuses on that big picture of ensuring that the people's rights are actualized. And therefore, in covering these elections, guidelines are being developed and almost concluded, developed through a consultative process, but whose objective is to ensure that the manner and nature of coverage of this very important process determined by our people, by the people of Uganda, does not leave Uganda in a bad or worse situation, that elections should help to improve our governance and our democracy, and that the coverage of the elections should ultimately to contribute to that broader goal. And the message has also been sent and shared here, that which the Commission too has been emphasizing, that elections will come and go. But this country must remain united, remain prosperous, and remain progressive. And that is why the actors involved in this process, including the media, should, and all of us must address ourselves to that bigger goal. So I will conclude by saying that the Commission is prepared to discharge its responsibility, but it counts on the stakeholders, the media, the broadcast media, and all media in all forms to play their roles, to be law-abiding, to put Uganda first, to promote coverage that searches and promotes common ground, not to give platforms to people that are bent on sowing seeds of hatred, animosity, and division of our people, because that is not what the people want. And to remember at all times the preamble of the 1995 Constitution, which says, in a part, that we, the people of Uganda, recalling our history, which has been characterized by political and constitutional instability, recognizing our struggles against the forces of tyranny, oppression, and exploitation, and on, do hereby, and through this Constituent Assembly, solemnly adopt the new Constitution of 1995, which is 30 years this year. That history that has characterized our past should provide lessons for us to learn from and not to repeat. And no one, not even the media, is allowed to make us repeat the bad history that we had before. That the media can only thrive if we have stability in the country. And therefore, this election should not cause investors to flee and start wondering whether they should keep around or put more money in the country or not, because of the images and the stories that they will be reading. That the election should not be a do or die, or it should not be covered in a manner that will make people think that the country is in a state of war, because we are not in a state of war. That the elections are a civil process, and they should be reported and covered as such. And the call goes to the media, the call goes to citizens, and the call goes to all the actors in the electoral process. I thank you very much.
Asante sana. Asante tena. Our guest of honor, from the corridors of the presidency comes a voice that champions coordination and national unity. Allow me to invite the executive director to invite the Honorable Minister of the Presidency, who will later invite our guest of honor. Honorable Idi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. PS Mama Babalanda, Minister of the Presidency, is with us. And I just want to inform the journalists that the coming of Mama Babalanda in this meeting is not by accident. It's on purpose. And that's what I wanted to explain before I invite her. You know very well, under the National Security Council Act, our media people hope you have ever read this law. It's one of these very, very small law. There's an institution called the District Security Council Committee. The District Security Committee is chaired by the RDC. And the secretary is the District Internal Security Officer, the DISO. This is a well-constituted committee in the law. We are saying our radios work for the public. And we know very well that information has been weaponized. When information is weaponized, it touches on security. So that sends a signal to me as a regulator. And Mama Babalanda, we've written to the RDCs, want to thank you for the good team you have down there at the district. We are engaging them. We've written to them and we copied to you, asking them to assist us. We have digital loggers. We can listen to these radios. We can see these TVs. We listen to radios and TVs. And get me right, we don't listen to telephones, to conversation of telephones. And we don't read your internet. We are not allowed under the law. But we listen to radios. Because of radios, we listen. And keep that content for about 90 days, and I think we shall increase our capacity to keep even for more days. But of course, I told you can use technology, but sometimes you need the human ear. Nothing will ever replace the human ear, the human eye, the human hand. Robots will come, but the human hand will remain more important than a robot. Computers will come, whatever artificial intelligence has come, it will never replace human natural intelligence, never. So we've asked Mama Babalanda through the RDCs to help us also listen in. And if there is offensive content, to alert us. Actually, we have given them the telephone numbers of the ED, myself, at that level, and my director, economic monitoring, Madam Julianne Muhiri. You can stand up for recognition also. So that complaint will come at that level. So you must know this. We don't want to ambush you. So the RDC, the DSO can call me directly and say, there's offensive content. Immediately I go to our digital logger and get exactly to know what you have said. And of course, we shall ask you to submit your recordings. And if it is offensive, if it breaks the law, we shall take immediate action. We shall not stop there. Every license, when we are renewing a license, Madam Minister and Honorable Minister, we shall ask a report of the District Security Committee. It's going to be a requirement. If you have been a radio, a TV that has been spreading hatred, inciting people, we'll see this. And obviously, we shall not renew your license. We will not renew your license. The District Security Committee is not a formulation of politics. It's a law. It's a lawful institution. And we shall require a report. Of course, some of you, when I've been sharing in consultation, say, but sometime I have more than 5 districts. We shall get a framework where we shall sample. We can sample if you serve in an area of about 11 districts. Our regulatory Balanda. He has told us that he has some other engagement to come here and share with us her reflections. Honorable Balanda, you're welcome.
Thank you, Honorable Nyombi. My colleague, the Honorable Minister of ICT and National Guidance, Honorable Chris Waliomosi, Dr. Zawede Amina, the PS Minister of ICT and National Guidance, the Executive Director, Uganda Communications Commission, Honorable Nyombi Tembo, CP Media Council, Mr. Paul Ekuchu, Major General Felix Klaije, Director of Information, and UPDF spokesperson, ASP Rusoke, police spokesperson, all senior government officials present, the broadcasters present, not forgetting the RDCs, deputies, and assistants. Ladies and gentlemen, the Lord is good, and all the time. My name is Babidi Mire Babalanda. By the grace of God, I'm the minister in charge of presidency. I'm delighted to be here today at your invitation. But before that, permit me in a special way to bring you warmest greetings from His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, who is the Commander-in-Chief of the Uganda People's Defense Forces and National Chairperson of the mighty party NRM, and our Presidential Flag Bearer, General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. More greetings from Mama, the First Lady, and Mother of the Nation, and Minister of Education and Sports, Mama Janet Kataha Museveni. And also greetings from the PS, Office of the President, Haj Yunus Kakande. I commend the Uganda Communications Commission for organizing this engagement at this crucial time of our national calendar. My brother, Honorable Minister, media plays a very crucial role in nation building. It is capable of building and transforming a nation, or it can destroy it, depending on how it is handled or promoted. On behalf of the Office of the President, I want to appreciate the broadcasters for allocating free airtime to government to air national issues of critical importance to the population. This airtime has contributed greatly to informing the public on the government programs and obtaining feedback from them about performance and conduct of government. However, it is noted that some broadcasters allocate this time off-peak when the public is exhausted. Yet I have also been told that some of the media teams reallocate this time to NGOs and politicians because you claim the government officials shy away from use of this time or generally interacting with the media. Either way, this is not good. Broadcasters should help government to ensure that this time is fully utilized for its intended purpose. The main purpose of this free airtime is to build a communication channel between government and the wananchi. We therefore expect the government representatives and the accounting officers at the districts, cities, divisions, and sub-counties to appear on radios and TVs to explain the government programs. There is also a major problem on the side of the moderators who demand for money from government officials in spite of the time allocated being issued out for free. This syndrome of extortion has scared some of the government officials from appearing on radios. This has to be addressed by the broadcasters. This engagement is being held at the peak of our electoral calendar when we are about to embark on the campaigns. It is my appeal that the media sticks professionalism during this time. We should remember the core principles of journalism, especially concerning the presenters and moderators, namely to inform, to educate, and to entertain. The news editors, on the other hand, have the duty to interrogate the 5 W's and 1 H. You already know it. The why, the when, the what, the who, and where, and how. The news of nowadays is, however, no longer balanced as the journalism principles stipulate. The editors are no longer neutral. The news sounds more of promotions. This area also needs to be addressed by the UCC. Finally, I appeal to the UCC not to end here with these engagements. This should be continued because it is the only way we can ensure professionalism in the media. Honorable Minister, as I talk now, sir, I'm also a victim due to lack of professionalism by a one called Chris Cato, who fabricated baseless information which is not evidenced. And the fact is, I'm going to battle with him in the courts of law. I thank you, and I wish you a good deliberations. It's now my singular honor and privilege to invite my brother, the Honorable Minister of ICT and National Guidance, to come and address us. Thank you for your kind attention, for God and my country.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, in charge of the presidency, the Honorable Mire Babalanda. Thank you very much for your remarks and also for coming to be part of this discussion. The front bench is getting narrower, but in the interest of time, let me say I acknowledge all of my colleagues on the front bench, the PS, the ED, UCC, the Chief Media Council, the police spokesperson, Madam Kareche, you were part of us, then you chose to shift there. The owners of the media houses, and all of you distinguished participants, good afternoon. Let me take this opportunity to appreciate all of you and thank you for coming to engage in this very useful discussion. And thank the previous speakers for highlighting a number of issues because we are discussing a very important topic. The media in Uganda, particularly how we are going to cover the elections, given the season we are in. I preface my remarks by thanking the media in Uganda and the media generally for the good work that you do. Because like other speakers have said, you can imagine if there was no media existence and all these things are happening in Uganda, there would probably be chaos and darkness. So you are doing a very good job as the media, and the government appreciates you. That's why we work with you. That's why we have put a framework for the media, strive, work with all the stakeholders so that we can have an organized society. But let me remind you of some facts. Sometimes we in the political class, when we say 1986, you challenge us. Did Uganda start in 1986? 1986 was a remarkable year in the history of this country because that's when the NRM, which is in leadership today, assumed power, assumed the responsibility of leading this country under President Yoweri Museveni. Then we had one radio station in Uganda, Radio Uganda. I remember in my place, the deep southwestern area where I come from, we were picking the radio from Kigali rather than the one of Kampala because it was near us. We also had only one TV station, Uganda Television. The other day I inquired, I was advised, we had only 2 print media platforms, newspapers. So you can see the space, the media space was very limited. But today, if you ask the UCC about the media houses that we have functioning in this country, we boast of over 300 radio stations licensed and working. We boast of about 70 TV stations up and running. Many newspapers, the print media outlets are there. And of course, in the current era, we also have a vibrant social media and digital communication platforms, which were not there then. So 30, 40 years ago, comparing that period to today, there has been a great change in terms of the media landscape. And that calls for regulation. Because you can imagine if you have over 300 radios, over 70 TV stations, you have social media, if you just left them to do whatever they want to do, there would just be chaos in Uganda also. So that justifies the point for regulation, regulating the media. That's why the Uganda Communications Commission exists to be the focal point for us as government to regulate communication in the country. And I'm emphasizing this because the other day I was in Mbarara speaking at a similar workshop, and one of the journalists, I think who has issues with the UCC, said, when he was given a chance to speak, Julian was there, and the Kuraije was saying, now that the minister has come, I want to ask, does UCC have any powers over me? I am an experienced journalist. I have worked for over 3 radios. Do they have authority to reprimand me? I want the minister to answer me before I invite my lawyers to go to court. Now I looked at the journalist, I said, you are basically saying, does government have any authority over me? I just looked at him with a little bit of contempt because he's a senior journalist, but asking that kind of question in that forum. Of course, the answer is yes. Uganda is not a lawless country. that you do whatever you want. There is law, there is regulation, because the state and the government exist so that there is orderliness in the way we run and lead society. So regulation of the media space is extremely very important. That's why, for instance, for you to operate a media house, you have to be licensed. You don't just come from anywhere, you start running a radio, a TV, or any other broadcasting or media facility. You get licensed. The Uganda Communications Commission has an elaborate framework on behalf of government on how you acquire the license. And that license has conditions which you must read. If you breach any of the conditions, then you can be in trouble with UCC, with government. For instance, what the Honorable Minister was referring to of the airtime that media houses are requested to provide to government for communication is a licensing condition. You, the broadcasters, it's a licensing condition that you provide at least 1 hour a week, preferably at peak time when the listenership, viewership is quite appreciable. And then, like the minister was saying, we did agree as a government that the RDC, the office of the RDC, coordinates the utilization of that time for government. Some people misunderstand it to mean it is RDC's airtime, and I have spoken and addressed RDCs that the RDC coordinates how that airtime is used, working with the CAO and the district communication officer, so that you to have the district engineer explain the roads, the district health officer explain health care, the production officer talks about wealth creation programs and agriculture, even the RDC himself talk about security and the government issues, the different government people. And we have clarified that that airtime is not for politicking, not for campaigning, but for explaining the work and achievements of the government, the NRM government. And we have issued guidance, working together with the minister for the presidency, on how that airtime should be utilized. And if it is true that some media houses are giving that airtime to NGOs and non-government actors, then that is wrong. And we shall definitely, working with the minister, follow it up, ensure that that airtime is properly utilized. In the function of regulation, you also meet what we call the minimum broadcasting standards. Because you don't just broadcast anything that you want. There are minimum broadcasting standards, which require you to observe objectivity, to observe balance, to observe fairness, to observe accuracy. But as we talk of regulation by the state or by the government, I think the primary regulator is you yourself, the media practitioner, the journalist, and the media house. Before you wait for UCC or government to regulate you, you should have that self-censorship spirit. As I go on air, as I broadcast this, does it meet the minimum broadcasting standards? And when you examine the media today, especially broadcast media, even the print media to an extent, you still, yes, good work being done, but you also get elements of breaching some of these minimum broadcasting standards. When I'm traveling up country or moving, I usually put on the radios and hear, listen what is going on, or watch television. Most often you will detect the lack of professionalism on the waves. You will detect irresponsible reporting, you will see imbalance in the discussions. You detect the lack of patriotism, the way some of the actors do their work. At times you detect bias, especially political bias. At times you detect the media practitioners giving a partisan side, especially regarding our politics, lacking that balance, and at times the distortion of facts. Like the other day I was in Mbarara, I came to close the workshop, a similar workshop. And when I reached, I was briefed that there was a question on the teachers' strike, which was raised by the audience. And we referred it to the minister to respond. Now, when I responded, I said the Minister of Public Service is going to issue a statement, but we are requiring teachers to go back to class on Monday, and the intentions of government are to enhance the pay for all public servants, but we are doing it in a phased manner. We did enhance for scientists in the government, including science teachers from the level of secondary school. We have enhanced for security officials of lower ranks, and plans are there to enhance for the rest. So from Barara, you travel to Kanungu, and I listened to one of the local radios. And then the journalist was saying, Dr. Christopher Yumus has said he will not increase the salary of teachers, and he has ordered them to go back to class. But he didn't put my voice. Then he put the voice of the teachers' leaders from Chigez there. And now was blasting me. He said, I am urging the people of Kanungu not to vote him. He's an enemy of teachers. Now, I said to this journalist, was he there? Why doesn't he put my voice how I put it? So, of course, he did it deliberately, just to incite teachers, so forth. So our appeal is that you should remain ethical and professional while doing media work. Then teachers began calling me, why have you, I said, first of all, I am not the one who increases teachers' salaries. I am just a spokesperson of government, and I was giving you the thinking of government as it was that day. And indeed, I think the Minister of Public Service has since spoken the very words that I used. But the journalist students say that I have refused to increase the salaries of teachers. Now, am I government? Am I the one who increases? So I know there are journalists here, but also owners of media houses. Our appeal is that you should remain accurate, fair, and professional, as well as ethical in reporting. Now, the other challenge that we have, which has been raised by previous speakers, is that the journalists are paid poorly, because most of the media houses are private-owned. Although King Karisa was saying many of them are owned by, okay, even those owned by politicians are private. Private as opposed to government or public media, the way UCC and others are. And a few weeks ago, I tabled the communications policy in cabinet, and we had an extensive discussion. One of the observations that was made in cabinet was that we over-liberalized, and we have allowed many media houses to be licensed, even when many of the media owners cannot manage to run them sustainably. And you hire unqualified practitioners or journalists. Many of them are not paid. And then they start extorting money from the public. Because they are paid poorly, they lose that sense of professionalism and ethics. Naturally, the cabinet directed our ministry to consider rationalization of media houses in Uganda, the way we have rationalized government agencies. So make sure that you stick to the rules to avoid becoming a victim, if I can call it a victim, of that rationalization. Cabinet was very insistent that I think we overdid the licensing of radios, and many of them are failing to thrive. You find a small district that has 4 or 5 radios. You cannot make business and economic sense. And then you recruit journalists, you can't pay them. Then they run professionally and so forth. So we are going to look at all this and see how we can bring hygiene in the media industry. But as I say that, I call upon NAB and the other media owners to sensitively look at the pay of your employees. Even when economic conditions may be hard for you to sustainably run the media houses, that's a complaint which I get from journalists all the time about the poor pay, but we can discuss that at another time. Now, we are discussing media and elections, given the times we are in. What we request you is to remain balanced and accurate and professional as you report. But I would also like to use this opportunity to appeal to candidates at the level of presidential, parliamentary, local governments, their agents, their supporters, to remain civil as they campaign. Because sometimes the conduct of us, the political actors, is what can result or incite violence and those kind of scenes. And we would want to appeal all the actors to refrain from inciting the public. And then, like the police spokesperson was very clear, when there is violence and confrontation, definitely the security officers, the police, have come in to restore law and order. We have received complaints most often from journalists of harassment and being beaten by security forces. I have received the footages of where there are those crashes, and you listen to those footages. And at times, you find the security officers are on the wrong, they have made a mistake, but also in some instances, the journalists are also on the wrong. I think we have our security people here. We need to continue building capacity, both for our journalists and also for our security people, to appreciate how they can coexist, especially in that kind of situation. Some journalists in that kind of environment sees being journalists, they start taking sides with even rioters, and even they start confronting security. Why are you not giving people freedom? Why are you? That's not your work as a journalist. You, a journalist, you are there to cover what is happening. But you find maybe they are demonstrators rioting, maybe demanding something. Then the journalist now joins them to appeal to security or to government to provide what they are demanding for. Is that really your work? I thought your work would be to cover the event and report what is happening without you joining the rioters. Or the security people advise you, please, maybe avoid here, be there, and you want to confront security like Mr. Kituma was saying. So we need to, especially as we go into this election cycle, the campaigns, to speak to our security people, as well as you, the journalists, on how both of you can coexist and manage these situations. You enable security and police to do their work, but also you be enabled to do your work as a journalist. But as government, we do not, like I have said several times, condone harassment of journalists and media practitioners. Because the way I left home to come and do my work as a minister, the way a doctor leaves home to go to hospital to work, is the way a journalist also leaves home to go and do work for all of us. So let's respect each other, and even security people have no right whatsoever just harass and beat journalists because they are also doing their work. But we just need to build the capacity on both sides to appreciate how you can work together, especially in those kind of situations. Don't be provocative. Just do your work. And also respect security or police when it is doing its work. Because some journalists start saying, why are you here, police? Who told you to come here? But are you the one who instructs police to do its work? And so forth. So usually, those confrontations, those irregularities are sometimes caused by our behaviors. And we shall engage with the security and use the media so that we can manage these situations going forward. But first and foremost, the political actors should behave in a manner that does not incite violence, because we don't need the violence. What the candidates and their supporters should do is to articulate their manifestos for the public to understand why those candidates are standing and what they have to offer. And we don't want to see any confrontation. Just as I conclude, let me just comment on some of the issues which were raised, particularly Mr. Kin Karisa raised some few issues. He said the majority of the media houses are owned by politicians, religious institutions, cultural institutions, and others. Yes, if they meet the requirements to have a media house licensed, the law doesn't bar Ugandans of different categories or institutions to own radios. But I hope and I'm sure you don't just walk to UCC as a minister or as an MP and you say, I want to establish a radio. And then they say, go ahead. Whoever has the running media house has to go through the framework which has been put in place. And it's not true that when a radio or a TV station or a media house is owned by a political leader, then it should be treated differently from the other media houses. I remember a few years ago, media house, UCC had a crackdown on media houses which were running without licenses, which had not met obligations, and indeed some big people would come to me, oh, you tell UCC not to close my radio. My response would be, comply with what you are being requested to do. But why should a person X comply with all the requirements? And for you, person Y, you want not to comply. So whether the radio or media house is owned by a religious institution or political leader, this is an instruction again to UCC, there should be no favoritism. They must comply and meet all the requirements, irrespective of who owns. And like the EDUCC was saying, we shall not allow media houses to start declaring results when they have not verified them from the Independent Electoral Commission. So even when that radio is owned by a minister or an MP, we shall take action on that radio, on that TV. So being a political leader or a religious institution or a cultural institution will not be and shall not be a shield for you to flout the regulations and you hide under the cover of being a political leader. No. You shall not. You must comply irrespective of who owns that media house. And indeed, UCC has closed media houses which belong to ministers and senior government people, especially where they have failed to comply with the requirements of the law. So that one, we deal with it very firmly, being a political leader cannot protect you and does not make you be above the law. We are going to engage with the Electoral Commission to discuss the issue of communication, because the concern by kin from NAB was maybe the voter education is not yet adequate. The other day in Mbarara, we raised the question to government that if there is a budget for communication regarding these elections, why don't you equitably share it across media houses? And my answer was, I was not very sure of the budget. Maybe the Electoral Commission might be having some resources. I think they have been calling for media houses to compete for adverts and so forth. But we shall discuss with the Electoral Commission and see how we can enhance this communication. But the request, Mr. Muchunguzi, was that if we have any resources available for communication, we do the way we did in the COVID, where we got some money and gave all the media houses some money for them to communicate. But we can discuss that. I think the point that he made was to address the issue of voter education so that the public clearly understands what is going on. For instance, it is true that we are going to mandatorily use biometric technology for voter verification. What that means is that when you appear as a voter, then we shall verify you using technology, either by thumbprint or facial recognition, so that we attain one person, one vote principle. We usually say one man, but women also vote. So to be gender neutral, one person, one vote. To avoid multiple voting,